I was just looking at my phone scrolling and realized that after only 3 weeks of NFL football, there is only 2 undefeated teams left and only one 0-3 team. You're saying every single powerhouse team except 2 have lost and almost every single horrible team has won after only 3 games? I thought for sure I've never seen this little amount of teams left on each end of the spectrum after only 3 games. Well, let's look at the stats. Here's the total amount of 3-0 teams left in each year since the year 2000. And here's the total amount of 0-3 teams left in each of those years. And here's this year. In the past 22 years, this year is tied for the least amount of 3-0 teams left in the league. This year also has the least amount of 0-3 teams since at least 2000, with second place being 2012 with 2. Basically, there are not a lot of really good or really bad teams. Almost every team is winning and almost every team is losing. So it's official. This is the most competitive the NFL has ever been. Every single game is incredibly fair and evenly matched like never before. This just shows why this is the perfect time to be a fan of the NFL, because every game has a chance to go either way. And this is just one of many crazy NFL facts about this season that you have to keep watching to see. That one 0-3 team must really suck, because this is the only time in the past 22 years to have only one 0-3 team, but it's the Las Vegas Raiders. The Raiders traded first and second round picks for Davante Adams just for this. They have Josh Jacobs and Kenyon Drake, Hunter Renfrow and Darren Waller, Max Crosby and Chandler Jones, and Derek Carr is not a bad quarterback at all. This is the best 0-3 team I've ever seen. It seems like they could for sure make the playoffs on paper, but that's why it's called on paper, because at the end of the day, we can look at the big names all we want, but what's on paper stays on paper. And the players have to go on the field and actually play. And they've lost every game. They have kind of played 3 good teams, and all of them were very close. They have a point differential of -13 in 3 games and lost all of them. There are 9 teams right now with a worse point differential than the Raiders. 9. And yet none of them have lost all 3 games like they have. I understand their opponents were the Titans, Cardinals, and Chargers, but they need to finish games. In fact, the Cardinals beat them and have a -25 point differential, and the Titans just defeated them and have a -33 differential. You can call it bad luck, you can say they faced really good opponents, hell, you could even say they just suck. But one thing's for certain, making the playoffs is almost improbable now. The last team to make the playoffs starting 0-3 is back in 2018 when the Houston Texans did it. But to find another team that did this, you'd have to go all the way back to 1998 when the Bills accomplished coming back from starting 0-3 and make the playoffs. 1998. In fact, it has only happened 6 times in history. The 2018 Texans, 98 Bills, 95 Lions, 92 Chargers, 82 Buccaneers, and 81 Jets are the only teams to do it. Starting 0-3 and having a successful season just almost never happens, and other than 2018, it's been 24 years since another team has done it. And this AFC West is really good, so for all intensive purposes, the Raiders season might just already be over. Which player would you rather have on your team? These are quarterback stats from this season only, and this is veteran Aaron Rodgers, this is the GOAT Tom Brady, and this is the young star Justin Herbert. And this is Trevor Lawrence. Guess who has the second highest point differential in the league? Yeah, it's the Jaguars. Guess who owns the Colts like a dog on a leash? Yeah, it's them boys in Jacksonville. 2-1, baby. And Trevor Lawrence finally has arrived to the NFL party. I know it's 3 games in, but come on, this has to mean something. Rodgers has kinda struggled without Davante Adams, Brady has also struggled without top-tier weapons, and Herbert does have the most yards and touchdowns here, but according to quarterback rating, Trevor Lawrence is better. The man is on the same level statistically with these superstars. He might even be playing better than them, and the Jaguars' record reflects it. Christian Kirk might actually be worth his ridiculous contract somehow, and James Robinson has made one of the best returns from an ACL tear in history as the Jacksonville freaking Jaguars are smooth sailing on top of the AFC South. When you see the score of the Colts and Chargers game, you think, wow, the Chargers and Colts suck. But then you realize, when upsets happen, they are close games usually. And when a thought-to-be horrible team beats great teams in back-to-back games in blowouts, those games might not be upsets at that point. Maybe the Jaguars are just better. But the only way to find out is this Sunday. when they play one of the other hottest teams in the NFL, the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles are 3-0, and none of their games have been close. It was a blowout against the Lions before they started to score late to make it look close. Then they beat the Vikings 23-7 and absolutely destroyed the Commanders. I thought they would be better with A.J. Brown, but this has gone way past just adding a good receiver. Their defense is locking up teams, and it's official. Jalen Hurts is legit, and is playing like an MVP. Here's the MVP odds. You might notice Jalen Hurts is high, but also Tua Tagovailoa. You wouldn't think of him as an MVP candidate, but he was the only other 3-0 quarterback left this season other than Jalen Hurts. That is, until he lost this Thursday to the Bengals because of a horrible injury because he never should have been cleared to play in the first place. But that's besides the point. He should come back, and he should play again soon. And even though it's just a bit too early to tell, he does seem to be a legit quarterback to lead this talented Dolphins team. I mean, they just beat the best team in the league even after having a player take a punt up the ass. Tua and Jalen were the last two undefeated quarterbacks in the NFL, and they were both on the same college team, which is simply insane. And I plan on making a video in the offseason on this 2018 Alabama team because of the insane talent that came from it. But back to the MVP odds, because there's just one player that is being snubbed, and he is high on the list, but I say he's being snubbed because he should be number one, and that player is Lamar Jackson.
Empty set. It's Jackson with a shovel pass. It's Andrew. Duvernay took the fake. Jackson took the ball. Found Jackson off his back foot. Lofting for the end zone. Jackson, end zone for Baltimore. Lamar Jackson hits the middle hard. Jackson back corner. Duvernay. And Lamar Jackson keeps on going inside the 10. Jackson keeps it. Has a first down. Has a touchdown. Lamar Jackson.
With 12 games played last year, Mans put up 18 total touchdowns, which is alright, but in just 3 games, he has 12 total touchdowns right now. The only players to ever have more touchdowns through the first 3 games is Patrick Mahomes in 2018 had 13, and Russell Wilson in 2020 had 14 passing touchdowns in the first 3 weeks. So he's on a historic tear right now, and it's official. Lamar is a top 5 quarterback and deserves every penny of a new contract. In fact, Mans has more touchdowns than every single team in the entire NFL except the Lions. The Lions are somehow just the next Chiefs offense, apparently. I mean, every game so far, they light up the scoreboard. This team is absolutely legit, and it's official. The Lions are my favorite team in the league outside the Browns. How can you not love this man? It's almost official. Changing the culture of the team before winning works. All year last year, they were losing a lot, but everyone was saying how they weren't doing what poverty franchises do. They were straying away from just being the Lions and started to play real football. And it started with this absolute crazy man that is Dan Campbell and the very exciting culture and energy he brought to every moment with the team. That shit worked too. And I said it's almost official that it worked because technically they still lose. Last year they lost a ton, but this year they had a super close loss to the Eagles and also a super close heartbreaking loss to the Vikings. And they beat Washington. So they're 1-2, but they could easily be 3-0. They have the second most points scored in the entire league as their offense is just exploding every week. Who would you rather have? This guy, this guy, or this guy? This is from this year and they all seem to be pretty even. Well, this is Justin Jefferson, this is Devontae Adams, and this is Amon-Ra St. Brown. In fact, Mans is 3rd in fantasy for receivers right now, only behind Kupp and Diggs. So literally compare him to anyone, it doesn't matter. It's official. Amon-Ra is legit. These big games aren't a fluke anymore. He is him. The Lions also have DJ Chark, Jameson Williams, DeAndre Swift, Jamal Williams, Aiden Hutchinson, and a fantastic O-line. This team's future could not be any brighter. Who hasn't proved me wrong in fantasy this year? Every player I think is bad or good just does the opposite. This was one of the weirdest weeks I've ever seen. I mean, Khalil Herbert? Seriously? He topped the week for fantasy running backs, and the rest of the top players were even weirder. Look at the top 10 running backs this week. Herbert, Henry, Williams, Singletary, Barkley, Patterson, Robinson, Ramondre Stevenson, Dameon Pierce, and Nick Chubb. In my 8-person fantasy league, 3 of these running backs were sitting on the waivers, and of the 7 that were on teams, 2 more were just chilling on the bench, and this one was on my own bench, which is just fantastic. I mean, but come on. Literally 5 of these running backs came out of nowhere and made the top 10 this week. It's normal for maybe 1, 2, or maybe 3 surprises to happen in the top 10 running backs, but for 5 random players to make it is unheard of. And it would be one thing if the running backs were all wonky for a week, but the receivers were even worse. Here's the top 10. Devontae, Hollins, Marquise Brown, Russell Gage, Zay Jones, Chris Olave, Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb, Romeo Doubs, and Isaiah McKenzie. This man, M. Collins, with the biggest hair ever, went off for 30 as Devontae Adams put up 14. I had to click on man's name just to find out his first name is Mac. That's how bad it is. I mean, maybe you could predict CeeDee Lamb or maybe Amari Cooper to do well because they are true number one receivers on their team, but the rest of them are all so random. I'm in an 8-man fantasy league and 5 out of the top 10 wide receivers this week were not on anyone's team. And out of those 5 on teams, 4 of them were on benches. The only top 10 wide receiver to start on someone's team this week was Amari Cooper, which was only starting because Mans just traded away Deebo Samuel. I know that's just my league and it's a kind of small league, but still, both of the 2 major position groups were really weird with almost none of the stars you would predict to do well actually do well. There were about 5 running backs and 8 receivers to exceed expectations this week. There is a historically low amount of 3-0 and 0-3 teams left. Trevor Lawrence and the Jaguars have outperformed some of the top contenders. Amon-Ra St. Brown has outperformed all of the top receivers. Fantasy football is absolutely out of control. The Las Vegas Raiders season is basically over and Lamar Jackson has put an entire team on his back to win games like we've almost never seen before. It's official. This NFL season is already one of the best we've ever seen. And we are on to week 4.